Hey everybody, it's me, Richard, with Nightmares Anyone? Welcome to the channel. Yes, I did take the word tears out of my channel name, and just as I did, like the last one, another book made me cry. So, before I get into the review of this, come back after the intro. Welcome back, everybody. It's me, Richard, with Nightmares Anyone. So, as you can see, I've got my Let's Summon Demon shirt on. Yeah, so those are some little kids getting ready for summer break, and they're gonna call forth some demons on their playground or in one of their houses or in their bedrooms. I remember doing that as a kid. So, the book I'm going to be reviewing today is by Berntson. Now, those of you that have been following me since the beginning, you guys know that Berntson, this guy right here, is the author of one of my favorite books of probably the last 10 years, Hillhaven Creeps and the Halloween King. Yeah, I will post a link down to that book right there, and I'll post a link to Brandon's author page on Amazon. Now, you guys, this book here, we are coming up on the 8th anniversary of the release date. It was originally released August 7th, 2014. Now, this is the 2020 revised edition. I don't know what Brandon revised in it, but if you guys notice, it never fails. The phone rings when I do a video. Why? Name unavailable. It's just a spam call. It never fails. Every time I make a video, the phone rings. Okay, let's see. So, this book, like I said, now if you notice on the cover, there's a wagon wheel, there's a horse here, there's a castle, there's a pumpkin, there's all kinds of stuff in the cover of this book. Now, this book is only 224 pages, but before we get into the review, I'm going to welcome some new subscribers to the channel really quick. And speaking of new subscribers to the channel, if you like horror, some fantasy, I don't really read that much fantasy or sci-fi, mostly horror and just things scary, and if you like today's content, I would love a big thumbs up. It helps the channel's algorithms. And if you haven't done so already, I would appreciate it. A subscribe. If you do like horror, just hit that subscribe button down there. I'll pop up a little magic one right here. You can hit that one too, and you can hit that little bell to turn on your notifications. So I want to welcome Brian F. F as in Frank. A Oral Sim. Yes, that guy. Dennis the Demon, and Serena Rogerston. Maybe the T is silent. So welcome to the channel, everybody. I'm Richard. I'm the crazy one that reads all this horror. Let's get into today's review. This is going to take a while. The only reason why I say that is because I'm going to read to you guys a couple passages from the book. I did talk to Brandon yesterday. I did talk to the author as soon as I finished the book, and we talked for almost 45 minutes, and I was a wreck. But he told me he did not mind if I read out of the book. I told him I wouldn't give any spoilers, and he said, you know, Richard, it means the world to me that the book affected you like it did. So here we go. So, those of you that don't know what this book is about, it says, welcome to, I'm going to read the back. says, welcome to Storyville, where magic lasts forever, and tigers and aliens coexist alongside clockmakers and cowgirls. Jack Bristol and Alice Schuyler are the best of friends. For a year, they embark on fantastic adventures, most of which are born from Jack's relentless imagination. An evil wizard named Doornail, pink lasers in space, and cheeseburger-eating dinosaurs. They also battle the realities of school, bullying, and the absence of a parent. As each season draws to a close, another one opens, revealing its own timeless magic and mystery, things Jack and Alice could have never imagined on their own, but discover are the most important things in life. An enchanting magical read for all ages, Castle Juliet will transport you to another time and place, a story you will want to revisit again and again, no matter what your age might be. You guys, I'm going to tell you something. Like I said, this book is only 224 pages. It was very easy to read. It is an absolutely incredible tale of two 10-year-old kids. Now, I'm going to read to you really quick what I wrote on my Goodreads account, because I know a lot of you have stated to me, Richards, I don't have a Goodreads account. I don't know how to go in and read your reviews. But I'm going to read to you what I wrote in mine. As you guys can tell, I did give this a 5-star rating, but I'm going to show you my review right there. Get ready to go back to your childhood. In what could easily... Oh, my tablet just turned off. It's just... Yeah, it's testing today. I got to get my second booster at 3 o'clock, so I'm not, So get ready to go back to your childhood in what could easily become a classic about what it means to be a child and experience that summer when you realized what a real best friend was. I love this tale of Alice and Jack. Just experience it. Storyville. Yes, it sounds like that perfect of perfect places to live. Well, that is exactly where this story takes place. It is a small town and story that you are never and not soon to forget. That is if you are young at heart. If you're not young at heart, you might not even get this story. Get ready to meet Jack and Alice. Jack Bristol is a 10-year-old only child who loves to dream and imagine that he flies... I gotta put my glasses back on. Jack Bristol is a 10-year-old boy who... Why am I messing up? I'll edit all this out. I hate the, what's it called? The glare and the reflection. Jack Bristol is a 10-year-old child. Damn it. Jack Bristol is a 10-year-old only child who loves to dream and imagine that he flies the outer boundaries of space. Yes, Jack has an imagination that only a child could have. Alice Schuyler is his best friend, and she goes along with Jack on his adventures as they fire pink lasers at ships, flying by the top of whichever tree they've decided to climb that day. They first meet in kindergarten, and now they are in 4th grade, and it is the time that, quote, Jackie boy, unquote, that's what his father calls him, just wants to go away. Yes, he hates school and anything to do with it, especially arithmetic. I hated arithmetic too as a kid. Jack knows what it is like to lose a parent. Yes, he lost his mother when he was young, and always had so many questions that he wanted to ask her and never got a chance to. Jack is always escaping reality and the daily grinds of having to go to school. He is in the 4th grade, and it has never been a thing that Jack was ever really good at. Alice Schuyler, she's the complete opposite of Jack. She loves school, learning in history and math, and she is great at all of that. That is why these two kids are so perfect for each other as best friends. During this summer, between 4th and 5th grade, the both of them experience a day of bullying by their local bullies, Torque McGurkin and his Randy band of rebel survivors. Yeah, cool name. I don't know where the hell Brandon comes up with this stuff. And it puts a damper on their day of fighting pirates and spaceships with bruises and wounds that they know they will recover from, but it's just it's a hard day. It's terrible to be bullied. As they are going back to the castle, Jack asks Alice if she believes in heaven and God and other questions, making Alice think before she answers them. Jack's father, Philip, is a man who wants to be the most perfect of perfect fathers as he raises Jack by himself on the wages of the local clockmaker and cobbler. Alice's parents are the type of parents that everyone always knew, belonging to one of our best friends, the perfect ones. Yeah, like the mother and father on Leave It to Beaver, or the parents on, I don't know, just those shows from the 60s and 70s. As the school year is going into the fall and holiday season, this is when the book really took me back to that time machine, back to my own childhood and growing up in the 4th grade in 1971. And this is where I started to relive childhood. Both Jack and Alice reminded me so much of myself and my childhood best friend, Starla Todd. Starla Todd is no longer with me, and I miss her every single day. Every time I pick up a horror book, I think of my friend Starla. Author Brandon Berntson writes with all that imagination and memories of his own childhood and somehow turns them around to be your memories all over again. And that is a gift to be able to do for a reader. For someone to pick up a pen or a typewriter or a word processor or a tablet and just to write these words down that takes you back to another time that you can remember like the back of your hand or remember like it was yesterday, that's a gift to be able to do. Castle Juliet is a book that I will quote and relive over and over again until I grow old. And I'm already 61. I'll be 62 in January. And I cannot wait to go back to Storyville and to visit Jack and Alice all over again. This is just the most wonderful book of what it really is to be a child and to live in a time no longer lived. The time of beauty, crime-free, and innocence, and what it was like to really love a best friend. Yeah, it chokes me up. I gave it 10 castles, 8 castles, and 2 purple hearts. And then I said, experience it. You guys, this book is so, so beautiful. Now, my books, I have 4 of them that Brandon has personally sent me. He's autographed them and wrote notes in them. This one, I don't have his autograph or a note. So I will be sending this to him and ask him a huge favor to autograph this one for me because this one really hit me hard. Now, me being a person who doesn't really read fantasy, this is not really that much of a fantasy. Now, if you look at reviews, I'm going to take a sip of water really quick. If you look at reviews on Amazon, it says it's a fantasy coming-of-age romance. There is a romance in this book, but it's the romance of childhood. It's the romance of innocence. It's not mushy. It's not one of those types of books. But when Alice and Jack go on an adventure, whether it's fighting pirates, there's one day in the story where, sorry, now I have the hiccups. Alice tells Jack, she said, Jack, why do the lasers have to be blue? I want to have pink lasers. And he was like, pink lasers? Pirates don't fight, against pink lasers. That's what makes this story work. This story is not dated, but I take it to be a time of the late 70s, early 80s, because one of the passages I'm going to read you describes Halloween night. There is a scene in this book that takes place between Jack and his father. Jack's father is an incredible dad. Now he is mourning. He's lost he's lost his wife. Jack has lost his mother to cancer. Yeah, I'm going to start crying, but I'm going to try not to. So they both know what it's like to lose that loved one in their life. Jack's father does everything he can to keep Jack's mind in a positive state of mind. Jack hates school. Jack hates math. He's terrible at it. Jack constantly calls himself dumb and stupid and degrades himself. But when it comes to his best friend Alice, she means the world to him. He loves this girl. He would walk across water for her. He would fight that dragon and, he would do anything for Alice. I'm going to read you a couple passages out of this book. bear with me. So I'm not going to reveal any spoilers. Alice and Jack climbed down from the tree after their galactic battle, saving the world, the universe, and everything in it. Because of the heat, they took their shoes off and dipped their feet into the stream. The water was cold, crisp, and refreshing. With the creek making rippling sounds over polished stones, they lay back in the shade and stared at the sky through the cottonwoods. I still don't know what a cottonwood is. I guess I need to look it up. I think it's a tree, actually. It had been a satisfying day. The wind made a gentle soughing in the branches. Soughing. It's spelled like coughing with an S. Maybe I need to look up that word too. It had been a satisfying day. The wind made a gentle soughing in the branches, cooling them down. The sky was still intensely blue with huge billowy clouds like slow-moving vessels across the sky. It's pretty out here, Jack, Alice said. Yes. You were very brave battling Doornail and blowing up those fighters, she said. I couldn't have done it without you, Alice. She smiled. Jack had been a very sensitive boy in the years she had known him. Now, you got to remember, they met in kindergarten, and now it's the summer between 4th and 5th grade. So they've known each other roughly, 4.5 years? She smiled. Jack had been a very sensitive boy in the years she had known him. The slightest things affected him. He could go from gleeful and exuberant to melancholy and dark in just an instant. Jack, what do you want to do when you get older? He lay there and thought. I want to be a football star, he said. But you don't play football. No, but it would be fun. The cheerleaders are pretty. You could be a cheerleader, Alice, and root for me. I don't think I could be a cheerleader. Well, maybe I'll be a fireman, Jack said. I could put out fires, save people. What if there were never any fires? Well, I could work in a homeless shelter and help feed and clothe the poor. I can see you doing that, Alice said. Jack smiled. He could see himself doing that too. Anyway, he said, it doesn't matter. I plan on staying a kid forever. That's what I really want when I grow up, to stay a kid. All the bigger people seem to have lost it. They're so different. I don't want to be like that. I want this now, everything. I want to fly forever in galactic ships, save the universe, and feed the poor. Those are lofty goals, Jack. I know, Jack said, but if you're going to dream big, right? Sure, Alice said. That's one of the first passages. Now, when you hear the words of those two kids, I can remember being a kid and saying crazy stuff like that. And now being almost 62, it's like, I think, I'm still a kid at heart. I'm very young at heart. So I'm going to get into the second passage really quick. Now, you guys know I love Halloween. I love everything about Halloween, being scared, monsters, ghouls, anything. Now, when I grew up in Washington State, I remember I think it was 1970, I was probably 9 years old, getting ready to turn 10 in January. I had the most awesome Halloween costume, and my mother made it. She sewed everything. I was Frankenstein's monster. It was the best costume I think I ever had as a kid. And we carried around, I would go trick-or-treating with probably 9 or 10 friends. We would go out right after dinner, and we would stay out, no joke, till probably 10 o'clock at night. Back then, you could accept anything for Halloween. You could accept popcorn balls. You could accept cookies from your local neighbors. You didn't have to watch for cars. You didn't have to have a parent drive you from house to house. And it was fun. And we carried pillowcases. And we did not come home until those pillowcases were full. Now, growing up in the Seattle-Tacoma area, it always, well, not always, but it rained. A lot of times it rained on Halloween. We just prepared for it. We knew we were going to get wet. We knew our pillowcases were going to get wet. And we knew that those things that came in Ziploc bags or were freshly made, like a popcorn ball or a caramel apple or cookies or brownies, we had to eat while we were trick-or-treating because we were going to get hungry. Halloween arrived that Sunday, and the streets teemed with laughing, giddy children. The clouds parted, revealing a clear night sky. Every star was visible above Storyville. The moon was full and bright, adding an eerie glow across town. Bags of candy grew weighty and cumbersome as the night waned. Costumed children flocked the streets, venturing from house to house. Parents accompanied the younger children and stood idly by on the sidewalk as treats were doled out. Jack and Alice walked down Newberry Street, a neighborhood on the west side of town. Other kids rang doorbells, chimed in with trick or treat as doors opened, and candy was dispersed. Chocolate bars, lollipops, popcorn balls, homemade candy apples, suckers, and dozens of other forms of candy, cookies, and homemade treats. Goblins, ghouls, vampires, zombies congested the sidewalks. Firemen, hobos, we wouldn't dare call them hobos today. That's me, that's not in the book. Fairies, clowns, athletes, princesses, and dozens of other characters walked alongside them. Houses were decorated like haunted mansions with purple lights, orange lights, bed sheets shaped to look like ghosts, cemetery-filled yards, and witches on broomsticks. Lighted pumpkins flickered and glowed on every porch, tinging the air. Despite the fun they were having, the fun they'd had, Jack and Alice talked about the summer. Talked about Torque McGuckin, school, Fred, Sue, Shockwave, Christmas, and the fantasies they had taken. Jack, of course, was dressed as Mr. Hyde, and Alice was dressed in the same bloody princess outfit. They had made no changes to their costumes. Yes, Jack loves to dress as Mr. Hyde from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And his dad, there is a scene in the book. In fact, I actually talked to Brandon about it yesterday. And there's a scene in the book where I think was the first time I really teared up. Jack and his father experienced creating Jack's Mr. Hyde outfit. And the conversation between them just really hit me hard. I never was close to my father, but this was the conversation and the hour that I had with my mother when she created that Frankenstein costume that year. And that story that Brandon brings out, I'm going to push my glasses up, sorry, I don't know why they're sliding down, because I have sunscreen on my face and I think my glasses are sliding down. But anyway, when Jack and his dad had that conversation, oh my God, it took me back to Halloween 1970 of me and my mom putting those finishing touches on my Frankenstein costume. And it ripped me apart. And I told Brandon that, and he laughed, and he said, dude, you just made my day. He said, to think that, I got you again. Because he knows how Hillhaven Creeps and the Halloween King affected me, and he knows how Boone affected me, his other book, his book of extreme horror that's for adults. So it's the same night, and Alice and Jack are walking down the street, and she says she wondered what would happen to them in the future. She wondered if they'd always be friends, what their futures held, if they'd ever drift apart. Would one or both of them move out of Storyville? Now, I didn't tell you guys this, but Storyville is where they live, and I really thought that the town name was really cool because it fit this book perfect. Would one or both of them move out of Storyville? She hoped not. Jack had something special that made her feel strongly attached to him. She didn't have a name for it unless it was simply who he was. Had they talked about this before? Something about brothers and sisters, best friends, and more. It wasn't a simple boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or something that would develop into that later down the road. Alice couldn't grasp the concept with Jack. As she thought about it, she had a feeling she'd always see him as a child. She couldn't see him as a grown-up or imagine what kind of man he had turned into. All she knew was that she loved him, and she knew he felt the same. I'm gonna start crying. Alice thought about all this as they walked the street, going door to door, and she began to understand how Jack taught her things he wasn't aware of, and vice versa. For Alice, it was the perfect friendship. She didn't want to lose anything with Jack, no matter how old they grew or what kind of lives they lived. Jack? Yes, dear Alice. Do you think we'll always be friends the way we are now? Alice, Jack said, beaming, you finally want to kiss me. Be serious, she said. I know this sounds weird having a conversation like this, but I can't stop thinking about it lately. Wouldn't it be cool if things stayed this way forever when everything seems so perfect? I wish we didn't have to grow up. I wish things never had to change. Jack was silent, contemplating about what she'd said. I'll tell you what, Alice, I'll figure out how to stop time. That way we'll always be young and can go trick-or-treating every day of the year, because every day will be Halloween if you want it to be. We can play in the meadow, carve pumpkins, and defeat every bully the town has to offer. We'll never grow old and we'll never die. Like vampires, only cooler and prettier, and fighting for good instead of evil. We might drift apart sometimes because that's just the way life is, but we'll always be faithful to each other because this is beautiful. What we have, it's beautiful. Yes, I think we'll always be best friends, and I'll stop time to prove it. Did you ever have a friend that you talked about things like that? I did. I had that friend in Starla. And Starla and I met in second. She was in second grade. I was in third. And we were friends up until she died just like 18 years ago. And it was rough. It was so rough. She's the one that got me into reading. She's the one that got me into loving horror. And we just had a childhood growing up in the 70s that, well, you'll have to read about it in my memoir when I publish my memoir. And then here's the last, sorry. When something can take me back to childhood. And talking to Brandon yesterday, I say it at the end of every single video. Live your life like a gift. I'm going to read the last passage really quick. Snow fell in flakes the size of silver dollars. It stuck to the ground and piled high across lawns, meadows, rooftops, streets, awnings, and parked cars. It lay heavy and white on the branches of every tree. Once dormant snowplows belched to life and cleared the streets. People pulled out their shovels, snowblowers, cleared walks as best they could, and still the snow fell. Boys and girls jumped from rooftops and into drifts piled high alongside houses. That's how I broke my arm the first time. Yeah. I thought, I'm going to jump off our garage. Yeah. Well, I jumped off our garage, hit underneath the snow drift, hit the ice and fell, and I broke my arm against the corner of the garage. The Thanksgiving decorations had been taken down, making way for colored lights, wreaths, and Christmas trees. Nativity scenes, reindeers, sleighs, elves, and Santa Clauses stood on rooftops, windows, doorways, front lawns, and wherever else people decided to put them. Christmas lights lined Main Street. Smoke rose from chimneys. The meadows outside Storyville lay like a vast, unbroken stretch of white. When night came, the clouds parted, and the stars shone by the billions in a cold, dark sky. We don't even see stars anymore. I live in California, and the cities have come so big, you can go outside at night and you don't even see stars. Denizens tipped their hats, nodded, and greeted one another cordially. Goodwill resounded through the streets. Gifts were purchased and carried by the armloads. Bright, colorful packages filled cars and trucks. School closed for 3 weeks. Children laughed and played, and still the snow continued to fall. Christmas vacation meant a return to fantasy and imagination, and Jackie Boy couldn't be happier. He labored plenty this year, and a snow-filled celebration was in order. He just wants summer to come back. Now, I'm going to end this review with this one little last passage. It's very short. So the real adventure had only just begun, and they came back whenever they wanted and played until time ran out. Which it never did, because this was a fantasy, and the magic was real. You can't tell children what to do when they are at the height of their imaginations. They make up their own rules. This particular fantasy doesn't have any rules to begin with, which left them to do what they wanted, whenever they wanted, anytime they wanted. So the summer, when it came, lasted forever. And that, my friends, is the definition of immortality. The book is just the most beautifully written tale of what it really means to be a child. I would recommend this book to anybody from the ages of, oh my God, anybody that's just learning how to read and understand a book. Or it's a book that you could read to your kids. You could read it to a grandkid. You could read it. I'm 62 and I'll read it again. And I'm sure I'll read it again and again. I loved this book. The Tale of Jack and Alice is something that if it doesn't affect you some way, that's fine. But me, it affected me a lot. And I loved it. I loved it. And huge thanks goes to Brandon Berntson for writing such a phenomenally beautiful and poignant tale of something I will never forget. And that's being a kid and Halloween. Take care, you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for taking time out of your day. Yeah, it's been almost 20 some minutes. It's actually been 30 minutes, but hey, it's worth it. Pick it up, experience it. It's a beautiful, beautiful tale. Thanks, Brandon. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.